My name is Daniel Meadows. I'm 28 years old. I wish you were never born. My father said that at my own birthday dinner. 33 people heard him. The candles on the cake were still burning. The wax had just started to drip down the white frosting with my name piped across it in blue. Nobody moved. Nobody cleared their throat. Nobody laughed it off like a bad joke. My stepmother, Marianne, gave a small nod. The kind you give when someone confirms a reservation time. Calm, certain, like she'd been waiting for him to finally say it out loud. My half-sister Sophie didn't lower her phone. She tilted it slightly. Adjusting the angle, the red recording light blinked in the corner of her screen. Steady, watching me. That was 4 months ago. Since then, I haven't yelled. I haven't sent a single angry text. I haven't told anyone how it felt to have your own father erase you in front of 33 witnesses and a half-melted cake. But I did something. Something that made Victor Meadows call me 27 times in one night. The first 10 calls were rage. Sharp, clipped voicemails about respect and family and how I was embarrassing him. Calls 11 through 20 started to fracture. The words slowed down. The pauses grew longer. Call 27 was different. There was no speech, no lecture, just breathing. And on the 28th call, my father's voice wasn't angry anymore. It was asking, "Daniel, please, we need to talk." I didn't answer. Before I tell you how we got there, understand this, that dinner wasn't an accident. It wasn't a man losing control for a second. It was a performance. And I was the final line in the script. Before I take you back to how this started, I want to say something quickly. If any part of this already feels familiar, if you've ever sat in a room full of people and felt completely alone, take a second to like and subscribe. Only if you genuinely connect with it. I don't need pity. I'm just telling the truth. And drop your city and the time where you're listening from right now. I read every single one. Now let me take you back 3 days before my birthday. The night I realized the dinner was never meant to celebrate me. Before any of this makes sense, you need to understand how the Meadows family works. My father, Victor Meadows, is 58, broad shoulders, deep voice, the kind of man who doesn't raise his volume because he doesn't have to. When he walks into a room, people adjust themselves without realizing they're doing it. Chairs shift. Conversations quiet. Decisions bend toward him. Victor doesn't argue. It declares. In our family, being the oldest son meant something. It meant you weren't just a person, you were the narrator. You decided who was loyal, who was selfish, who was difficult, and everyone else followed because it was easier than resisting. My mother, Caroline, died when I was 8. Complications after a surgery. Something went wrong weeks later. I don't remember the hospital room clearly. What I remember is the silence after. What I understood very early, without anyone saying it, was that my father blamed me. Not directly, not with words, but in absence. He stopped coming to my school games. He stopped asking about homework. When I got sick in 5th grade, it wasn't him who left work early. It was my grandmother, Margaret Meadows, who drove 40 minutes to pick me up and sat beside my bed reading while I slept. Margaret was the only person in that house who treated me like I belonged there. She called me my boy. She came to every recital, every award night. When I graduated high school, she cried harder than anyone. After my mother died, my father remarried within 2 years. Marianne Holt became Marianne Meadows. She brought her daughter, Sophie, who was 4 years younger than me. Blonde, confident, loud in the way people call charming. She fit into my father's world immediately. I didn't. I was moved into the smallest bedroom upstairs. My mother's photos disappeared. Marianne's wedding portrait replaced them. No one announced it. Things just shifted. 4 years ago, my father lost his job at a logistics firm. Downsizing, they said. He never looked for another one. By then, I was working as a registered nurse at the community hospital, 12-hour shifts, nights, holidays, the kind of exhaustion that sits behind your eyes and never fully leaves. The first mortgage notice showed up on the kitchen counter. No explanation, no plan. Marianne mentioned it at dinner like she was discussing weather. Someone needs to take care of this. She looked at me. So I did. But that comes later. What matters is this: I spent 20 years trying to earn something that was never mine to earn. Approval. And Margaret, my grandmother, saw it. 2 years before she died. She squeezed my hand and said something I didn't fully understand at the time. Quiet strength. Daniel. Let them talk. You just stand. I thought she meant endure. I didn't realize she meant prepare. When my father lost his job, he called it temporary. That was 4 years ago. The first month, I paid the mortgage because someone had to. Yuan. Subai. The second month, the electric bill stacked on top of it. Water, insurance, property tax installments. By month 3, it was automatic. Yuan. 800 a month left my account like clockwork. I set up autopay so I wouldn't have to watch it happen. 12-hour hospital shifts, night rotations, holidays no one else wanted, Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving, New Year's Day, at 3 a.m., when the ER filled with people who didn't want to be alone. That's what $800 a month costs when you're a nurse. It costs sleep. It costs knees that ache before you're 30. It costs the version of your 20s that other people post about online. My father never said thank you. He never asked how I was covering it. He just let it happen. The way you let water run from a faucet you assume will never dry out. Marianne adjusted quickly. Comfort settled on her like a habit. And then there was the credit card. I found out about the supplementary card by accident. A $300 charge for a coat I didn't buy. Then shoes. Then salon appointments. Then a $1 $200 designer bag, charged 3 weeks before my birthday. When I asked about it, my father didn't even look up from his chair. She's your sister. Daniel. She wasn't. But I stopped correcting him years ago. What kept me quiet wasn't fear. It was a promise. In her final weeks, my grandmother Margaret held my hand and said, "They'll fall apart without you." I believed her. So I paid. Mortgage, utilities, insurance, 4 years. Ibai Yuan. Zero total. Every dollar documented. Every transfer traceable. Every sacrifice silent. What hurt wasn't the money. It was the expectation. I wasn't being asked. I was being used. And somewhere along the way, my father started confusing my responsibility with obligation. He thought because I never complained. I didn't notice. But I noticed. Especially the $1. $200 back. That was the first crack. Not because of the price. Because it proved something. They weren't struggling. They were comfortable. And I was the one financing it. 3 nights before my birthday, I came home at 1247 a.m. Double shift. My scrubs still smelled like antiseptic and burnt coffee. The house was supposed to be dark. It wasn't. Light spilled from under the kitchen door. Low voices carried down the hallway. Not casual. Measured. The kind people use when they don't want to be overheard. I stopped halfway down the stairs. Marianne spoke first. We announce it at his birthday. 30 people. If he says no in front of everyone, he looks selfish. If he says yes, problem solved. A pause. My father's voice followed. Slow. Controlled. And if he makes a scene, then you do what you should have done years ago. Cut him off. Silence. My pulse started hammering against my ribs. They were talking about my savings. Wushar Meiyuan. Ling ling ling. 6 years of overtime. Double shifts. Skipped vacations. A car with 210,000 miles on it because replacing it would slow the savings down. Sophie was engaged. I hadn't even known. And we frame it right. Marianne continued. He's the responsible one. He's the man of the house. It's only fair he helps his sister. My father exhaled through his nose. He owes this family. He does. She replied. No hesitation. It's time to collect. I stepped back quietly. One stare at a time. They weren't planning a request. They were choreographing a trap. Public. Strategic. Designed. If I refused, I'd be the cold older brother who wouldn't help with his sister's wedding. If I agreed, my escape fund vanished in one applause-filled moment. Wushar Armeyuan. 000. Reduced to centerpieces and catering. I sat on the edge of my bed for 2 hours that night. No anger. No tears. Just calculation. For the first time in my life, I stopped thinking about how to keep the family together and started thinking about how to step out of it. Something shifted. Not loudly, but permanently. The wedding trap wasn't new. It was familiar. When I was 18, I applied for a nursing scholarship. Full tuition. Competitive. State-funded. I filled out the application at the kitchen table after midnight shifts at a grocery store. Wrote the essays between classes. Submitted it without telling anyone. 3 months later, A white envelope arrived addressed to me. I never saw it. 2 years later, I ran into my old biology teacher in a supermarket aisle. She smiled like she was proud of something. "Daniel, why didn't you take the scholarship? You were the top candidate." The words didn't make sense at first. "What scholarship?" Her smile faded. I went home and searched the filing cabinet in the hallway closet. Found the envelope opened, tucked behind old tax forms in my father's drawer. Acceptance letter. Congratulations. Full award. Signed. Dated. Ignored. When I confronted him, he didn't flinch. "You weren't ready," he said. "For what?" "For that kind of pressure. You would have failed." No anger. No apology. Just a decision he made for me without asking. I worked nights at a diner through nursing school. Took out loans. Slept 4 hours a night for 3 years straight. Every time I built something, he repositioned it. Every time I stepped forward, he redirected the path. The wedding money wasn't about celebration. It was about control. And this time, I wasn't handing him the wheel. Saturday night. Rosani's. Private dining room. Exposed brick walls. Soft pendant lighting. White tablecloths. 33 guests. A banner stretched across the back wall. "Happy birthday, Daniel." For half a second, I let myself believe it. I was wearing the only suit I owned that didn't look like hospital scrubs translated into fabric. Navy. Clean lines. I'd even shaved carefully. Stupid. In hindsight, I wanted to look like someone worth celebrating. Then I saw the seating arrangement. The main table under the banner had 5 chairs. My father at the head. Marianne to his right. Sophie beside her. Evan Collins, Sophie's fiancé, next to her. And one seat reserved for my father's college friend. My name was printed on a place card at a smaller table near the kitchen doors. At my own birthday dinner, I picked up the card, sat down without comment. Conversations floated past me. "Let's see the ring. When's the date? You must be so proud. Victor." The cake sat untouched on a side table. My name piped in blue frosting. Candles unlit. 10 minutes later, my father stood and tapped his glass with a knife. The room quieted immediately. "Tonight is special," he began. "Not just because it's Daniel's birthday." My chest tightened. "We have an announcement." He turned towards Sophie. His entire face changed, lit up in a way I hadn't seen directed at me since I was a child. "Our Sophie is engaged." Applause erupted. Chairs scraped. People stood. Phones lifted. Sophie extended her hand, diamond catching the light like it had been designed for this exact moment. For 10 full minutes, my birthday evaporated. I stayed seated. Evan caught my eye once. His jaw was tight. He didn't look comfortable. Eventually, everyone sat back down. My father remained standing, microphone in hand. "Daniel," he said smoothly, "come up here." 33 faces turned toward me. I stood, walked across the room. My shoes echoed against the tile. He placed a hand on my shoulder. "Firm. Public. Family takes care of family," he said to the room. "And with a wedding coming up, we all need to contribute." He looked directly at me. "Daniel's been very responsible with his finances. He's been saving for years. And I know he'll want to help his sister have the wedding she deserves." The squeeze on my shoulder tightened. "Agree." Marianne leaned forward, dabbing her eye with a napkin. "It's what your mother would have wanted." That line landed like a blade. My dead mother. Used as leverage. "This is my birthday dinner," I said. My voice didn't rise. "Can we not do this here?" My father's smile thinned. "You always say later, Daniel. Later never comes." His tone sharpened, not loud, just edged. "I've given you a home, stability, 20 years of patience, and you can't do this one thing." The room held its breath. I noticed Sophie lifting her phone. Recording. The red dot blinked. I looked at it, then at her. She didn't lower it. "I'm not giving away my savings," I said. "That money is for my future." A shift in the room. Subtle but real. My father went still. Something behind his eyes flattened. He stared at me. 5 seconds. Then he said it. "I wish you were never born." No shout. No tremor. Just fact. Silence swallowed the room. I could hear dishes clinking faintly from the kitchen beyond the wall. Soft background music, playing somewhere overhead. Absurd and misplaced. Marianne nodded once. Small. Certain. Sophie's hand trembled slightly, but the phone stayed raised. Evan pushed his chair back half an inch. Not standing, just creating distance. I felt something inside my chest fracture. Not explode. Crack. I looked around the room. 33 people. No one spoke. I folded my napkin once, twice, placed it beside my untouched water glass. Thank you all for coming, I said evenly. Then I picked up my jacket, walked past the cake with my name on it, and left. The night air hit hard. I reached my car before my hands started shaking. I sat behind the wheel for 3 full minutes, breathing in through my nose, out through my mouth, the way I coach patients through panic. Then I pulled out my phone. One contact, Helen Crawford. She answered on the first ring. I'm ready, I said. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. I didn't go home that night. I drove. No music. No calls returned. Just headlights cutting through empty streets while I replayed one sentence over and over. I wish you were never born. By the time the sky started turning gray, something inside me had settled. Not healed. Settled. At Shasa Trezecha. I pulled into the driveway. The house was quiet. My father's car still in its spot. Curtains drawn. Everyone asleep. I'd packed a week earlier without knowing why. One suitcase. One duffel bag. Clothes. My framed nursing license. A photo of my grandmother Margaret and me at a county fair when I was 11. Nothing else in that house belonged to me. I carried the bags downstairs in 2 trips, skipping the 3rd stair that always creaked. Habit. In the kitchen. I opened my laptop and sat at the table. 15 minutes. No hesitation. First, I transferred every dollar of my savings, $52,000, into a new account at a different bank. Second, I called the credit card company and canceled the supplementary card tied to my account. Immediate effect. Third, I confirmed the lease on a studio apartment I toured quietly during a lunch break the week before. 400 square feet, 6 miles east. Mine. Then I prepared the envelope. 4 years of bank statements. Every mortgage payment. Every utility bill. Insurance premiums. Property taxes. Highlighted. Totaled. Ibay Centrasimayan. Ling ling ling. All from my account. No note. No explanation. No accusation. Just numbers. I placed the envelope in the center of the kitchen counter where no one could miss it. I zipped my jacket. Picked up my bags. The hallway was still dark. The house smelled like Marianne's lavender diffuser and old carpet. I'd lived there 20 years. I'd financed it for 4. I opened the front door. Stepped outside. Closed it behind me. The latch clicked softly. Final. I didn't look back. I drove east into a pink morning sky and didn't return. That was the move. They just didn't know the board had already changed. Sunday morning. Marianne found the envelope. She moved it aside to make coffee. Didn't open it. She went upstairs to tell me breakfast was ready. My room was empty. Closet cleared. Bed stripped down to the mattress. No framed license on the wall. No suitcase under the bed. She called my father. He actually left. Victor walked upstairs. Glanced at the room. Shrugged. Let him sulk. He'll be back by Friday. He went downstairs and turned on the television. Sophie woke up an hour later and opened her banking app. The supplementary card had been declined. She tried again. Declined. She walked into the living room, holding her phone. My card's frozen. He's being dramatic. My father said, it'll pass. Marianne picked up the envelope again. Wiped it in her hand. Set it back down. Probably some goodbye speech. She said, I'm not giving him the satisfaction. By Monday afternoon, my father had called me 4 times. Voicemail? This is childish. Daniel, call me back. By Wednesday. Silence from my end. He started narrating. To Aunt Claire, he's emotional. To an old college friend, he's overreacting. To anyone who would listen, he'll cool off. The envelope still sat unopened on the counter. Day 5. The electric company sent an automated notice. Past due. My father called customer service. Account holder named Daniel Meadows. I live here. I'm sorry. Sir, we can only discuss account details with the registered holder. He hung up slower than usual. Day 7. A formal letter arrived from the bank. Mortgage payment overdue. He opened it at the mailbox. Read the name twice. Daniel A. Meadows. He carried it inside and dropped it on the kitchen table. What is this? Marianne opened it. Her mouth parted. That's impossible. This is our house. My father went to the filing cabinet in the hallway closet, pulled out folders, tax returns, old insurance papers, anything with his name on it. Nothing. No deed. No ownership. No signature tying him to the property. Marianne finally opened the envelope. Dozens of pages spilled out. Highlighted statements. 4 years of payments. Mortgage. Utilities. Insurance. Taxes. Ibai centrasume yen. Zero total. She sat down slowly. My father stood behind her, reading over her shoulder. His face didn't change. Not yet. But the narrative he'd built for years was starting to crack. And he still didn't know the worst part. 2 weeks after I left, my father called a family meeting. Community center attached to the church. Beige walls. Folding chairs. Fluorescent lights that buzzed just loud enough to irritate you. About 30 relatives showed up. Aunts. Cousins. People who hadn't questioned him in decades. Victor stood at the front of the room like he was hosting a town hall. Marianne sat in the first row with a tissue already in her hand. Sophie beside her. Arms crossed. Phone face down for once. We have a family situation. My father began. Voice steady. Controlled. Daniel has abandoned the house. Canceled the credit card. Stopped paying bills. He's punishing us over a misunderstanding at dinner. A few nods. A few uncomfortable shifts. Aunt Claire stared at the floor. All I'm asking, my father continued, is for someone to talk sense into him. He's hurting this family. That's when Uncle Thomas stood up from the back row. Quiet man. Carpenter. Hands permanently rough. Before you go further, he said calmly. Did you invite Helen Crawford? My father frowned. Why would I? The side door opened. Helen Crawford stepped in. 64. Gray blazer. Leather portfolio under her arm. Reading glasses hanging from a thin chain. She didn't rush. Victor Meadows. She said evenly. I'm here on behalf of your son. The room went silent. And on behalf of your mother. She placed a clear plastic sleeve on the folding table at the front. My name is Helen Crawford. I was Margaret Meadows' legal counsel for 23 years. She slid the document forward. 2 years before her passing, Margaret Meadows executed a legal transfer of the property at 412 Burwood Lane to her grandson, Daniel Andrew Meadows. The words hung in the air. Notarized. Recorded with the county. Fully binding. My father stared at the paper. That's not possible. Your name has never appeared on the deed. Helen replied. The property was purchased by Margaret in 1987. She chose her beneficiary. Murmurs broke out across the room. Marianne stood up abruptly. We've lived there for 20 years. As permitted occupants. Helen said calmly. Not owners. Uncle Thomas spoke again. I witnessed the signing. He said. Mom asked me to. Every face in the room recalculated. Helen opened her portfolio again and removed a thick stack of documents. In addition, over the past 4 years, Daniel Meadows has personally paid the full mortgage, insurance, property tax, and utilities for the property. She laid the statements out like cards on a table. Total documented expenditure approximately $134. Ling ling ling. All from Daniel's individual checking account. Silence. Heavy. She lived there for free. Marianne snapped reflexively. Helen looked at her without emotion. He was paying the mortgage on a home he legally owns. If anything, he was subsidizing you. No one defended my father. Not one. Aunt Claire stood slowly. Victor, she said, voice shaking. You told that boy you wished he was never born. The boy who paid for your roof. My father opened his mouth, closed it. The authority he'd carried for decades didn't work anymore. Helen closed her portfolio. The facts have been presented. She nodded once and walked out. The door clicked shut. And for the first time in his life, Victor Meadows stood in a room full of people who weren't following him. He was exposed. And he knew it. 2 days after the meeting, Helen sent the letter. 60-day notice to vacate the property at 412 Burwood Lane. Certified mail. Legal letterhead. Clean language. No emotion attached to it. I didn't write a personal note. There was nothing left to explain. That night, my phone started lighting up. Call 1 through 10 were predictable. You think this is funny. You're embarrassing this family. You don't understand what you're doing. Click. Each voicemail sharper than the last. Anger layered over disbelief. Calls 11 through 15 changed tone. The volume dropped. The pauses grew longer. Daniel, we can talk about this. Tell Helen to pull the letter back. I'll apologize. If that's what you want. Call 16 was silence. 28 seconds of breathing. Then the line disconnected. Call 17. His voice was different. No command. No authority. No narration. Daniel, please. A long inhale. Where are we supposed to go? I sat on the edge of my bed in my studio apartment. Morning light, cutting across the wall. Coffee cooling in my hand. I played that last voicemail twice. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I felt something quieter. Like setting down a weight you've carried so long you forgot it wasn't part of your body. I didn't call back. Over the next week, he kept trying. Calls 18 through 21 were shorter. No threats. No lectures. 22 through 25 were messages left at odd hours. Just talk to me. Don't do this. We're family. Call 26 didn't leave a voicemail. Call 27 came in just before midnight. I let it ring. He left one final message. I don't know how this got here. For the first time in my life, my father sounded lost. Not angry. Lost. And I understood something then. He wasn't asking how to fix what he broke. He was asking how to restore control. And those aren't the same thing. I saved the voicemails. Then I went to work. Patients still needed medication. Charts still needed signing. Life outside my father's gravity kept moving. For the first time. So, did I? 3 days after the 17th call, Sophie reached out. I almost didn't answer. Her name flashed across my screen, and for a second, I considered letting it join the others in voicemail purgatory. But something in me was curious. Daniel, she said. Her voice was thick. She'd been crying. I'm listening. If we lose the house, the wedding, everything is collapsing. Can you just tell the lawyer to stop? There it was. Not I'm sorry. Not what he said was wrong. Just consequences. Sophie, I said evenly. Did you watch the video you recorded that night? Silence. What video? The one where Dad said he wished I was never born. I could hear her breathing shift. I didn't think. That's the problem. I said. Not angry. Just factual. You never think. Things happen around you, and you let them. Her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I know. And I did. That was the worst part. She hadn't orchestrated it. She just benefited from it. I'm not punishing you. I continued. I'm done financing a system that only works if I disappear. There was muffled movement on her end. Marianne's voice in the background. Whispering instructions. Coaching. I have to go. I said, wait. This conversation isn't about your wedding. It's about what happened in that room. I ended the call. That evening, another number came through. Evan Collins, Sophie's fiancé. We had never spoken one-on-one before. Daniel, he said carefully. I know this is unexpected. I'm listening. I was there that night. I saw what happened. A pause. I should have stood up. I didn't. I'm sorry. I leaned against my kitchen counter and stared at the wall. That apology landed differently. Not desperate. Not manipulative. Just clean. Thank you, I said. There's more. He continued. I've been watching the way your family talks about you. The way your father takes credit for things I now know you paid for. His voice tightened slightly. I'm rethinking what kind of family I'm marrying into. That wasn't my battle to fight. That's between you and Sophie. I said. I know. I just needed you to know someone in that room saw you. Saw you. The words stayed with me long after we hung up. A week later, I heard through Uncle Thomas that the wedding had been postponed. No official announcement. Just delayed. Sophie's social media went silent. For the first time in years, there were no filtered photos. No ring close-ups. No countdowns. Silence can say a lot. And for once, I wasn't the only one feeling it. Helen had been holding the second envelope for 2 years. Sealed. Handwritten. Dated. With instructions from my grandmother that were specific down to the timing. Give this to Victor only after he learns the truth about the house. Margaret had known. Maybe not the exact shape of events. Not the restaurant. Not the microphone. But the pattern. Uncle Thomas told me what happened. Helen dropped the envelope off at his place on a gray Wednesday morning. My father was staying in the spare bedroom by then. Boxes stacked against the wall. His life condensed into cardboard. Thomas carried the envelope upstairs and set it on the dresser. From Mom, he said. She wanted you to have it when you were ready. My father stared at it for nearly an hour before opening it. The letter was 2 pages. Margaret's handwriting neat and slanted. the same way she labeled recipe cards and birthday checks. I never read it in full, but over the next few weeks, pieces of it surfaced. Margaret wrote that she loved her son. She also wrote that she had watched him turn grief into punishment. "You blame him for Caroline's death," she wrote, "but she died loving both of you. Don't punish the living for the grief of losing." She explained the house. It wasn't retaliation, it was protection. "Daniel is the only one in that house who gives without keeping score," she wrote. "He is also the only one who will never ask for what he deserves. So I am making sure he has it." There was a final line Thomas remembered clearly. "You confuse control with leadership." My father came downstairs after reading it. His eyes were red. He didn't speak, didn't defend himself, didn't narrate. 2 weeks later, he called me. Once, not 17 times. Once. "Daniel," he said. The background hum told me he was still at Thomas's house. A clock ticking somewhere. A refrigerator running. I read Mom's letter. I waited. "I don't know how to fix this." That sentence would have meant nothing months ago. Now it meant something small. Not repair. Not redemption. But recognition. "I'm not asking you to fix it," I said. "I'm asking you to stop breaking it." Silence. "Can I see you? Not yet." When I don't know. Maybe someday. If it's different. Not performed different. Actually different. Another pause. "Okay." No lecture. No anger. Just, "Okay." We stayed on the line for 10 seconds without speaking. Then I said goodbye. And hung up. For the first time in my life, the power dynamic wasn't hanging between us like a wire pulled too tight. It was slack. And that scared him more than anything else ever had. 3 months later, I live in 400 square feet. The hot water takes 90 seconds to warm up. The walls are thin enough that I can hear my neighbor's cat at 5 in the morning. The couch is secondhand. The table wobbles if you lean too hard on it. It's mine. I still work night shifts. Still eat leftovers from the hospital break room when I don't feel like cooking. Still drive the same car with too many miles on it. But when I check my bank account now, the numbers belong to me. Every dollar earned. Every dollar spent. No silent transfers. Uncle Thomas comes by every Sunday. He brings coffee from the place on Elm Street and sits across from me without trying to fix anything. We don't talk about my father much. We don't need to. Sophie hasn't called again. I heard through Thomas that she and Evan postponed the wedding indefinitely. I don't know what that means for them. That's their work. Not mine. Marianne tried one last time. A Facebook post about being forced out of our home by an ungrateful stepson. It lasted 2 hours. A cousin replied with a screenshot of the bank statements. She deleted it. My father sent a Christmas card. No letter inside. No apology. Just my name written carefully on the envelope. Daniel. Like he was practicing saying it without resentment. I'm not telling this story so you feel sorry for me. I'm telling it because some of you are sitting in houses you pay for, but don't feel safe in. Sitting at tables where your contributions are expected, but never acknowledged. Checking your phone for messages from someone who hurt you and wants you to pretend it didn't happen. Leaving wasn't revenge. It wasn't dramatic. It was folding a napkin. Standing up. Walking out. It was choosing myself. And I would make that same choice again. Every single time. This story was created by the Boundaries and Bloodlines team for entertainment purposes only. It is a fictional narrative and should not be imitated or used as real-life legal or personal advice under any circumstances.